Imagine waking up on a completely ordinary Tuesday morning, grabbing your phone while you're still half awake and opening up your investment app. You type in your passcode, the screen loads, and there it is, a number you've been dreaming about for years. $100,000, or close to 1 crore rupees if we calculate it in our local currency. For a second, your heart skips a beat. You feel this sudden, massive surge of accomplishment. You've sacrificed nights out, skipped expensive vacations, packed your own lunch while your coworkers ordered takeout, and drove a car that looks like it barely survived a minor war. You expect this milestone to feel like a portal opening up into a totally new reality. You expect to feel powerful, safe, and undeniably rich. But then you get out of bed. You walk into the kitchen, make a cup of coffee, and look out the window. The sky is still gray. Your landlord is still going to withdraw rent next week. The grocery store down the street is still charging a ridiculous amount of money for a carton of milk. And you still have to log onto your laptop at 9 a.m. sharp to answer emails from a boss who doesn't care about your portfolio. Suddenly, a strange, slightly unsettling feeling creeps in. You realize that having $100,000 feels almost exactly the same as having $95,000. In fact, psychologically, it feels a lot like having $10,000. You aren't suddenly flying first class, and you can't exactly walk into a luxury car dealership and buy a supercar with cash. This is the psychological paradox of hitting your very first major financial milestone. We are conditioned to treat it like a destination, a magical gateway where all our money anxieties suddenly vanish into thin air. But the reality of what actually happens when you hit this number is completely different from what you've been told. It isn't just a bigger number on a digital screen. It is a fundamental shift in the physical laws of money. The rules of wealth literally bend around you, and if you don't understand exactly how that shift works, you might end up falling into a psychological trap that resets all your hard work right back to zero. To understand why this specific number acts like a secret doorway, we first have to look at the massive illusion that breaks most people's spirits before they ever get anywhere close to it. When you first start your investing journey, you are fueled by pure optimism. You watch a few videos, read a book on compound interest, and open an account. Let's say you commit to saving $50 a week. You do the math in your head, thinking about how your money is going to quietly multiply in the background while you sleep. But then a year goes by. You've consistently given up small luxuries, skipped the new shoes, said no to drinks, and stayed disciplined. You open your app expecting to see something incredible, and you realize your portfolio made a whopping $45 in market returns. Meanwhile, you had to sweat through the entire summer because you were too terrified to turn on the air conditioning or fan just so the electricity bill wouldn't spike. The sacrifice feels massive, but the reward feels completely pathetic. This is where the grand illusion of the financial world claims its victims. We are constantly flooded with stories about the magic of compound interest, making it sound like a passive elevator that carries you straight to the top. But in the early stages, that is a complete lie. In the beginning, your investments are utterly powerless. They are like a tiny, fragile spark. If you just leave that spark alone in the wind, it won't grow into a roaring campfire. It will simply go out.
The only thing that actually grows your money in the first few years is your own physical labor. You are the sole engine of the entire operation. Every single dollar in that account is a direct reflection of your overtime hours, your side hustles, and your raw self-control. It feels exactly like trying to push a massive, heavy concrete boulder up a steep mountain. You push with every ounce of strength you have. Your muscles are screaming. You're drenched in sweat. And after a month of brutal effort, you look down and realize you've only moved the boulder about 3 inches. Because human brains are evolutionarily wired for instant survival and quick rewards, your mind looks at this equation and reaches a logical conclusion. Investing is a scam. It feels pointless. This is the exact moment where the vast majority of people quit. They decide that since $50 a week isn't making them rich today, they might as well just spend it on a flashier car lease, a nicer jacket, or a fancy dinner to feel a temporary burst of happiness right now. They fall right back into the cycle of working to spend, permanently trapped at the very bottom of the mountain. But what happens if you don't quit? What happens if you keep pushing that heavy concrete boulder week after week, year after year, watching the balance slowly creep from $5,000 to $20,000 to $50,000 until it finally crosses that $100,000 mark? This is where the universe flips the script, and it all comes down to a fundamental shift in power. Think of your portfolio like a business partner. When you first start out, your partner is completely useless. They sit on your couch, eat your food, watch your TV, and contribute absolutely $0 to the rent. You are doing 100% of the work while they just lounge around. But as your balance grows, that lazy partner slowly starts to wake up. At $10,000, they throw you a $20 bill to help with groceries. At $50,000, they're suddenly paying the electricity bill. But the moment you hit $100,000, everything changes. Your partner suddenly gets a high-paying corporate job, pulls up a chair, and starts matching your work ethic. Let's look at the simple math behind this, completely free of any complex financial jargon. If you have an investment portfolio of $10,000 and the stock market has a completely average, historic year where it gains 10%, your account earns $1,000 over the course of 12 months. That averages out to about $83 a month. It doesn't alter your life, it doesn't give you options, and you still have to go to work every single day to survive. Now, let's apply that exact same 10% market movement to a $100,000 portfolio. In a single year, without you lifting a finger, without you working a minute of overtime, and without you sacrificing a single weekend, your money generates $10,000 in pure, effortless returns. Think about what that actually means. $10,000 a year is roughly $833 hitting your account every single month. Your money has officially started generating enough passive power to cover your grocery bills, your car insurance, your phone bill, and a massive chunk of your rent. For the very first time in your life, you are no longer working alone. You have a tireless digital employee working for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, never taking a sick day, never complaining, and entirely dedicated to making you wealthy. This is the exact phenomenon that legendary investor Charlie Munger was talking about when he famously said that the first $100,000 is a total nightmare, but you simply have to do it. He understood that before this number, you are a slave to your labor. After this number, your money steps into the arena and starts doing the heavy lifting for you. The mountain changes shape. The boulder you were pushing so hard finally clears the rocky peak. The ground flatters out, and as you give it another push, the boulder starts rolling down the other side under its own weight. The momentum completely reverses. To truly understand how aggressive this momentum becomes, look at how the timeline collapses for the next milestones. To get from absolute zero to your first $100,000, assuming you save roughly $10,000 a year at a standard 7% return, it will take you about 7 to 8 brutal years. It feels like an eternity of waiting. But to get from $100,000 to $200,000, using that exact same savings rate and market return, it won't take another 8 years. It will take about 4 years. The time is cut perfectly in half. And to go from 200,000 to 300,000, less than 3 years. By the time you are looking to cross from 900,000 to $1 million, the market movements can do it in just over a single year. The first 100,000 takes the longest because you have to hand forge every single gear of the machine out of your own raw energy. But once the machine is fully built, turned on, and lubricated, it begins to run entirely on its own fuel. While the mathematical acceleration is beautiful, the psychological evolution that happens inside your brain when you cross this threshold is even more profound. It completely alters how you interact with the world, specifically changing your relationship with your job and your own survival. Most people walk around with a quiet, low-level sense of dread humming in the back of their minds. They won't admit it out loud, but it's always there. It's the constant fear of the unexpected. It's the deep, stressful realization that they are exactly one bad corporate restructuring, one unfair layoff, or one sudden medical emergency away from total financial ruin. Because they live with this invisible gun to their head, they are forced to tolerate things they hate. They have to smile at a toxic boss who demeans them. They have to accept bad working conditions. They stay at soul-crushing jobs that actively destroy their mental health because the alternative, not being able to afford a place to sleep next month, is simply too terrifying to imagine. When you reach $100,000, that underlying dread completely vanishes. This isn't enough money to retire on a tropical island forever, but it is something much more practical. It is absolute freedom money. It is the ultimate shield against the chaos of life. If your company decides to eliminate your department tomorrow, you don't have to freeze in terror. You don't have to desperately apply to 100 random jobs on the internet out of pure survival panic. You have a massive, comfortable cushion. You have the luxury of time. You can sit back, take a deep breath, and wait for the perfect career opportunity instead of grabbing the very first thing that prevents eviction. This psychological security completely changes your body language and your energy in the workplace. When you don't desperately need a specific manager's approval just to buy groceries next week, you stop acting out of fear. You speak up more clearly in meetings. You set healthy boundaries. You negotiate for the raises and promotions you actually deserve because you aren't terrified of the word no. Ironically, this complete lack of desperation often makes people significantly better at their jobs, leading to faster promotions and even higher salaries. Your portfolio officially transforms you from a dependent hostage of an economic system into a confident, voluntary participant. However, crossing this line also exposes you to a brand new, incredibly dangerous psychological trap, one that quietly ruins people just as they are on the verge of becoming genuinely wealthy. When you see that six-figure milestone sitting in your account, a deceptive little voice in your mind will start to whisper. It will say, "Look at what you've built. You've sacrificed for years. You've been so disciplined. Why are you still living in this small apartment? Why are you still driving this old car? You have $100,000. You've earned the right to live a little." This is the trap of false arrival. Because $100,000 sounds like an absolute fortune to our primitive brains, we fall victim to a psychological bias known as the wealth illusion. We start feeling significantly richer than we actually are. People see that balance and immediately go out to finance a brand new luxury vehicle, or move into a premium apartment that devours half their income, or start booking luxury vacations every single quarter. They justify it by telling themselves that they are successful investors now, so they can handle it. But what they completely fail to realize is that by pulling money out of the market, or by stopping their monthly contributions to fund a more expensive lifestyle, they are turning off the engine right as it finally started running. They are stopping the boulder right as it cleared the peak of the mountain. If you liquidate your investments or freeze their growth just to buy status symbols, you drop right back to the bottom. You destroy the momentum, and your partner goes right back to sleeping on the couch. The real test of hitting $100,000 isn't actually getting there. It's having the rare psychological discipline to sit on your hands and do absolutely nothing when you arrive. You have to let that wealth sit undisturbed in the dark so it can compound into real, generation-altering financial freedom. So, what is the practical takeaway from all of this? How should you live your life differently knowing how the physics of wealth actually works? First, you need to completely change how you measure your financial progress in the early years. Stop obsessing over your investment returns during your first few years in the market. It is a guaranteed way to get discouraged and quit. If you judge your success by how much your money grew this month, you will walk away. Instead, judge your success entirely by your savings rate. Your only goal in the beginning is to feed the machine. Focus everything you have on scaling your income, eliminating useless expenses, and pouring as many raw dollars as possible into the account. Your savings rate is your steering wheel. The market is just the wind at your back. Second, understand that the journey to $100,000 is a test of your identity, not just your bank account. It forces you to build the rare habits of delayed gratification, emotional stability, and absolute consistency. The mental strength you develop during the years it takes to save your first six figures is the exact same mental strength that will allow you to manage millions of dollars later in life without losing your mind. The money is incredible, but the person you are forced to become to achieve that number is the real asset. When you finally cross that milestone, take a quiet moment to appreciate it. Recognize the safety it brings. Enjoy the deep peace of mind that comes from knowing you are no longer standing on the edge of a financial cliff. But do not change your lifestyle. Do not let your lifestyle inflation erase your progress. Keep your head down, keep your daily habits exactly the same, and let the unstoppable physics of compounding take the reins. The first 100,000 is a brutal, exhausting uphill battle, but once you clear that peak, the view from the top changes everything. Building wealth isn't about luck. It's about having the exact psychological blueprint that the top 1% use to stay ahead while everyone else stays trapped in the rat race. We map out that blueprint every single week with simple, zero-nonsense visual breakdowns designed to give you an unfair financial advantage in the real world. If you are ready to stop trading your time for survival and start building a money machine that works for you, do not leave your future to chance. Click the subscribe button right now and step inside the Zone DSB.